All right, let me know if you guys can see me. We should be able to hopefully see me. Aha! Yes. I can't tell, but we should be golden. Sorry about everything going back and forth. I'm really sorry about all of this. I am just not having an easy time with technology today. All right, let me go ahead and pop out my chat. I don't know what happened. Everything was all good. It's okay. That's how life is. All right, so let's begin by doing the intro. As you guys know, I'm Riverly of the Savvy Groomer, and I am way behind on everything I wanted to get doing. So, you guys know how it is. I can't believe how long it took me today to get this rocking and rolling, but every time I do it, there's always a new glitch that I don't realize there's going to be. But I guess that's just part of learning new technology. So let's go ahead and just start the show. Whoop, as my computer. Don't freeze on me, computer. Be a good computer. All right, so let's go ahead today and start talking about this week's topic, which is how to not accept a client, but do it gracefully. So I have my notes down here because I was afraid to put them up on the computer because I want to make sure that I can see myself and that everything is going well. So if I'm looking down, guys, just ignore that. So I want to begin by talking about that everyone who calls you is not necessarily your ideal client. They can be a client, but they may or may not be your ideal client. And I think that every time we hear the phone ring, we feel like we have to try to convince somebody to become our client. But one thing I want to talk to you guys about is how to spot when somebody is the wrong person for you to groom. And I don't think we ever really talk about this. We talk about how to identify the right people, but how do we identify the wrong people and how do we deal with that? I want to talk about how, the market is full of different yet interesting customers. You're going to have to realize there are certain things that you excel at and things that you want to avoid. A grooming salon should think of themselves like a restaurant. So if you think about Chinese restaurants and Italian restaurants, they both make noodle dishes, but they're completely different. Sushi and a seafood restaurant. Fish and chips is absolutely nothing. You guys can't hear me? Ugh, it's no good. That's really bad. Let me see if everybody can hear me. So I'm going to keep talking because my microphone is on. Make sure it's plugged in properly. Pardon me, guys. Okay. Shelly, let me know if you still can't hear me. I'm hoping you guys can hear me. And if you can't, we will do this all again tomorrow night. How about that? I promise. Oh, awesome. All right, Peter says he can hear me. So again, if you're a Chinese restaurant and an Italian restaurant, those two restaurants both make noodle dishes, but they're completely different. If you have a sushi restaurant and a seafood restaurant, a tuna steak that's grilled is very different than tuna sashimi. They're both literally the same fish, but they can be prepared very different ways. So you want to think about your business like that. Are you a sushi place? Are you an Italian restaurant? Are you a comfort food place? Like, what kind of recipes would you create in your business? And I know these are kind of abstract metaphors, but I want you to think about how you could even have, like we use the example of coffee, how Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, and McDonald's all serve coffee, but they serve to very different clienteles. So with that, I want you to ask yourself what does work for your business and what does not. Every business focuses on different specialties. And so what are deal breakers for you? And I want to talk about some examples of what deal breakers could be for your business. You could refuse to accept once a year or twice a year dogs or cats. You could decide you're not going to accept every 4-month, 10 strip nose to tail. So those clients that come in about every 3 to 4 months and they literally want you to shave bald their dog every 3 to 4 months, or a line cut every 3 to 4 months as well. You might not accept cats. You might, or if you're feeling exclusive like I am, you might not accept dogs. You might not accept clients that refuse to keep a credit card on file. You might refuse to take clients that refuse to pre-book. You may refuse clients who want to book last minute every single time. And these are not necessarily bad things. For me with I get my eyebrows waxed and I am that bad client that wants to cancel last minute if I have to book. I would prefer to online book my appointments when I am in the area, because the girl that I like that does my eyebrows is not anywhere near anything else I do. So I have to specifically plan my day around that. So it makes my life very difficult. So I would be a bad grooming client for me because that's not my brand, but the place I go to, that is their brand. Oh, thank you, Shelly. Yeah, I got it darker and I got bangs. Your girl, a little bit of changing up. You might not accept aggressive pets, or you might not be willing to accept aggressive pets on a regular schedule. Like I had very strict when I had my salon, I would accept aggressive pets, but they had to be on a 4 or 6 week schedule because I don't want matted and pissed off. Like that's terrible. You might not accept large dogs or elderly pets. You might not accept pets with medical conditions or who are on certain medications or any medication. You might not accept clients who bounce from groomer to groomer. That is one of my biggest pet peeves. I understand why people do it, but it drives me bananas when I give you a good haircut and then to save money, you go to somebody else who has a bad haircut and then I have to fix that other person's bad haircut. Drives me bananas. And so these are examples of things that you may not be willing to accept. They might be deal breakers. If we were talking about dating, quote unquote, this client, then these might be things that we're like, okay, this is something I'm not willing to accept. Now that you've identified some deal breakers, and if you guys want, go ahead and write them down or at least start thinking about what deal breakers you would not be willing to tolerate. Let's talk about how to politely tell a client that you are not the right fit for your business. So I love the analogy I heard recently where they want you to think about picking a client, and I call them soulmate clients. They're also called your ideal client avatars, which basically means your favorite client, but not like your favorite client that you love, but your favorite client because they make your life perfect. So if you have a soulmate client, then that client is someone you want to marry and be in a long-term relationship with. And the easiest way to find that out is before the date, which is the date would be the initial appointment, you would ask questions. And if you hear something that is truly like, this is a deal breaker, then I wouldn't be able to. Like for me, I really want more kids. I wouldn't date somebody who doesn't want kids. If it was a client, then I have a very regular schedule. I would not accept a client who is not willing to commit to a regular schedule. And so that is something that's a deal breaker for me. But let's use an example. And I want you guys to tell me, and feel free to throw out other things that you guys are feeling are deal breakers, and we can talk about those specific examples, especially because you guys have been awesome. And I really appreciate that you've hung with me, even through all the technical difficulties. All right. So let's say you don't want to groom elderly pets or pets with medical conditions. I think this is a very common one because unfortunately, we're in a litigious society. We are in a point in our grooming lives where people are being sued even though the pet had a pre-existing condition. And we all don't have the money that PetSmart does. If you guys follow at all the legislation going on, and Scruffle's mom, I'm pretty sure it was Scruffles. If it wasn't Scruffles, then I know it was a bulldog who died, and the dog had a pre-existing condition, and she sued PetSmart, and then PetSmart, countersued, and PetSmart finally won, and she had to apologize because PetSmart did not kill her dog. Her dog died due to a pre-existing condition, but they had to spend lots and lots of money to sue her back in order to do that. And we don't really have that kind of money generally. I mean, if you guys do, you can always share it with your girlfriend here. Hey. But if you don't want to worry about it. So let's say that's the example. And I want you to focus on their pet and how you want the best for them. Because we can sit there and we know in our head, if your dog dies on my table, that's a lot of paper. Now, I mean this very silly. Like, obviously, emotionally, we don't want that to happen. For any of you guys who have groomed elderly pets, this is always a possibility. Or pets with severe heart conditions, or even diabetes. There's a lot of things that can just go wrong. Obviously, I'm saying this in a very silly way, but, we are thinking in our head, I don't want your pet dying on my table. It's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of drama. It's a lot of this. It's a lot of that. Obviously the emotional side too. But we obviously can't tell clients that. You can't say, well, if your dog dies on my table, it's going to look really bad on my business. You can't say that. I mean, that just sounds crazy to them because they don't understand what we do, and they don't understand, animals are not like people. They can't tell us when they're hurting, and people can pick and choose when they're going to take care of ailments. But anyway, so if this were happening in my business, and you guys know my brand is very matter of fact, so you would need to tweak this. In order to fit your brand. So when I say I'm very matter of fact, I am like, it is this, and if you don't like it, like, I'm very eat your veggies. I'm sweet but firm. So this is an example of what I would say. Fluffy sounds like a great dog. I am so sorry to hear about his health condition. We refer potential clients with health concerns to XYZ veterinarian office, which has grooming. They treat your pet like family, and I know if my pet had this condition, I would want a vet on site for grooming. I'm going to say this again, that way you guys can hear it. So I am saying there's nothing wrong with their pet. I'm reiterating that I appreciate their pet, and I'm saying what my concern is for their pet and how I would best do it if it was my animal. So, and I always say Fluffy, so you guys will get over it. I don't like Rover. All the dogs are Fluffy. Fluffy sounds like a great dog. I am so sorry to hear about his health condition. We refer potential clients with health concerns to XYZ veterinarian office, which has grooming. They treat your pet like family, and I know if my pet had this condition, I would want a vet on site for grooming. So in this example, we are, again, affirming the client. We are referring them out because in a perfect world, you guys should have a list of other groomers who are not shit groomers, who are not batshit crazy, that you are able to refer out. And it's going to be important to refer out clients because you can't do them all. And there's going to be a lot of things that you want to give them and you want them to give back to you. So I love having a lot of dog groomers that I will give them the dogs. And guess what? They send me the cats. And it's perfect because then we get to do what we want to do because they certainly don't want to do cats. I know I'm playing with my bang. Sorry, guys. And if you notice this, I am making sure that they are serviced and they are well taken care of. Shelly says, I specialize in all the above, but on schedule. Dematting without permission almost got in court case. Exactly. You have to be very careful what you are willing to do. I generally, I'm at the point in my life that I have no tolerance for being in a litigious potential situation. So if someone comes in with a severely matted cat, pelted, I'm probably not going to do it. A, because it's not worth it to me, and B, because if you guys have ever groomed cats, when you start to shave it, even dogs, but cats have such thin skin. If your cat's pelted, their skin may have ripped underneath, and then when you're shaving it, the skin just keeps splitting. Thankfully, I've never personally had that happen, but there are groomers that have dealt with this. I have in the dog world where I've had a pelted Cocker Spaniel who, was covered in maggots, and we didn't know till we got all the way down to the skin. So, I'm at the point in my career where I'm like, go to the vet. But, what Shelly's saying, all the above, but on a schedule. So, Shelly, let's say if you had somebody with all of these things, but they were not willing to be on a schedule. They would, again, like the example I used, where they don't want to pre-book and they want to call last minute and they're not willing to be on a regular schedule. So sometimes it'll be 4 weeks and sometimes it'll be 8 weeks. And if they're on summer vacation, they won't be for 12 weeks. An example, and I'm going right off the cuff, I like to generally say, like, Fluffy sounds like a great dog. I find that's a really great way to let them know that it's not about their dog. Fluffy seems like a great dog. We do require clients to be on a regular grooming schedule. We generally give our clients a pre-booked appointment for their next slot because we are done by appointment. And it's very important to us to make sure every client has enough time, care, and attention in order to get what they need. So that is a requirement. And then see, for that client, I would then say, is that something you're willing to commit to? And if they hem and haw, then I know that client is not going to be my client. If they're not willing to commit to a regular schedule, then that's okay, but they're not my client. And there are plenty of grooming salons that, are willing to do last minute all the time. I think that there is actually a lot of money if people can build up a big enough salon. Like, I had a membership bathing program. If I had built up my shop more, it actually would have been an even better program where I could have had people basically have more flexibility and freedom in order to do, be able to come in more often and have more freedom and flexibility. The problem with being able to take last minute appointments means that you're not fully booked. And if you're not fully booked, that means that you're paying people to not work. And so that is where generally, if you're going to take lots of last minute clientele, it really should be on a membership model, because then you have their money and you can pay your payroll whether or not they come in. And it's really on them to squeeze themselves in, less so than just having people sit around and see how it goes. And feel free again, guys, to put in another example if you guys want me to do an example of how to politely tell someone. And again, using my brand, and you guys, can curtail my words for your brand. Another example I have is if you guys do not want to groom cats, and you guys know my feelings about grooming cats. If you are not professionally trained or you are not currently in a program like the NCGI's program, do not groom cats. It is very bad. It will end bad. You will, get very hurt and potentially end your career. It's not worth it. And I would say the same thing for somebody who has never groomed a horse before. If I had a dog groomer with a pair of clippers and they started doing, a hunter clip on a horse, they're going to get bit and kicked and crushed and reared on. I mean, if you guys think about, if you guys have ever been around horses, they have cross ties where you put the halter on and then it's around the side, And so this is where, if we use dog grooming stuff, it would be just a loop. The last thing I want to do is have a horse on a loop, So understanding the differences between the different animals is so important. So if I did not want to groom cats, I would say, I understand how frustrating it is to find a cat groomer. Most grooming salons are designed for dogs, and our staff has not been professionally trained to groom cats. A lot of salons treat cats like they are little dogs, but that would be like treating a large breed dog like a small horse. Either way, it ends up badly for the pet and groomer. I don't personally know any certified cat groomers in my area, but I would look up the National Cat Groomers Institute to see cat groomers in your area. So this is an example of the client is You know, this is somebody, I'm using the example like saying they don't know another cat groomer, because you may not. And this is a good resource. And then how to let the client know why it is that you're not willing to take on their cat and the importance of a professional. And if you honestly believe that being a dog groomer is different than someone who gets clippers at Walmart, then you would respect the fact that being a cat groomer isn't you get a pair of clippers and you're a dog groomer and you just shave a cat. You're not a cat groomer if you just shave a cat. It is not the same. No different than someone who buys a pair of clippers and shaves their own dog is not a dog groomer. And again, you don't have to say no in that instance. You're explaining your point and the reason why it's not working. You know. Megan, I'm going to read your comment in just 1 minute. Let me just get through this other example that I've written down, because this is a very common one. Another, we talked about doing a qualified question with Shelly's, which was, are you willing to commit to the schedule? And another example would be for an aggressive dog who bites for its face and feet. If you take aggressive dogs, that is completely on you. If you take aggressive dogs that are once-a-year dogs, again, that's on you. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I can tell you my opinion, but what you choose to do in your salon is completely up to you. But an example is, let's say you do not take aggressive dogs at all. An example would be, groomer. Does Fluffy have any sensitive areas? Does he nip for anything? You never say bite. You never say attack or anything that sounds very aggressive, because owners aren't going to say their dog's aggressive. You know, if you guys have children, less so the parent, more so the grandparent, I might say my kid can be a jerk because he's a 9-year-old boy, and 9-year-old boys are kind of jerks. But, my mother, who was his grandmother, would definitely defend him and say, oh, he can be a bit difficult, or, oh, he can be a bit opinionated. And I'm like, that kid, he's being a jerk. She's like, no. So, use sweeter words. Same as like, I never say mat. Are they matted? Because they're going to say no. I say, do they have any knots or tangles? So again, let me start again. So the aggressive dog. Does Fluffy have any sensitive areas, and does he nip for anything? The owner, yes, he nibbles if you go to pet his face, and when the vet does his toenails, they have to have me hold him. So what does that tell me right there? If a client is telling me this willingly, I really appreciate it because it's the truth. She's trying to downplay his aggressive behavior, because no dog nibbles when you go to pet their face. They try to bite you. And if the owner has to hold the dog to get the nails cut, again, I can tell you what I feel. I do not believe it's appropriate for owners to hold their own pets when they're being groomed, because it's a huge liability. If the owner gets bitten in the face, technically it's your fault. Even though it's their fault, it's your fault. And they're not a professional. If they choke their own dog to death doing a very bad vet hold, technically it's on your property. Technically that's your business's responsibility. So you do what you want, but you're opening yourself up to liability, and that is the tough part. That said, in this example, nibbles is they're downplaying aggressive behavior. To me, that is a red flag. I would rather have someone say, yeah, he bites, and I don't know how to deal with it. I would rather someone say that than somebody who says, oh, he nibbles. Oh, he puts his teeth on you, but he doesn't bite, because that's not biting. And if the vet is having her hold him, I'm like, okay, well then the vet is placating her, because again, the vet should have a professional hold the dog while doing a toenail trim, because vets don't want to get bit in the face no more. And I'm sure it's a tech doing the nails, not the actual vet, but techs don't want to get bit in the face either. But they're willing to placate her and take the risk. So that to me says, okay, this person might be a little bit more difficult to convince to do the right thing. But anyway, so with that, so she's saying, he nibbles and the vet holds him. And then I would say, if this was my salon, this is not currently my policy, and it wasn't my policy when I owned my shop, but this would be an example of somebody who does not accept aggressive dogs. So I would say, thank you for your honesty. That's so important. ABC Salon, whatever the name of my salon would be, has a zero tolerance policy on pets that may lash out due to fear or pain. We take a 50% deposit at the time of booking, and we can give Fluffy an opportunity. But if he has to be sent home, that deposit is used. And so I allow that person in that scenario to be honest and upfront with me. Yes, my dog bites. And all of those things. And that's the tough part is, in that example, that person is allowing that person to be honest and open, but they are being firm in their policies by taking a deposit. Taking a deposit because people lie. Oh, he doesn't really bite. Because some dogs really don't bite. They just they're, I mean, you're groomers, they just sit there and they snarl and they're jerks. And I'm going to get to you, Megan, right now. But Shelly, I'm seeing that you're saying cats take two people. Do you know, Shelly, that I groom cats alone in my van every day? Like, I groom 100 cats a month by myself every month in my van. A lot of that really does come down to training. It's really all training. So I do line cuts, comb cuts, bath and blow dries 100% by myself. But that saying, I'm a certified feline master groomer. I know what I'm doing. I am trained properly. A lot of it is technique and learning how to do it. So, if you do not have that training, please don't do it. Yeah, I agree, Shelly. Like some people, like she was saying that weekly toy poodle that got matted when they're on vacation. I don't know why, it sucks so bad when people go away with these breeds of dogs and you're like, they think for some reason that boarding place, even if it has grooming, is going to bathe and blow dry their pet every week. That's not how that works. It sucks. And I get it because I have a Persian and I would pay for my cat to have a bath every 2 weeks if I was gone more than a week. Or if he was going to be there for just a week, I'd probably take him shorter in a comb cut. Now let me get to Megan's question. She's saying, I just got here. Not sure if you could give advice how to convince people to rebook at corporate grooming. It's so hard to convince people to come in every 4 to 6 weeks, especially being so busy lately. So Megan, this is the thing. The thing is that you want to figure out why people are coming to corporate, and that's the main thing. You have to understand the branding of your business. So for the most part, people go to corporate because it's easy to book. Most of them have, either online booking or it's a perceived thing. Not that I think it's like fast food, but there's a perceived thing that it's easier, it's more convenient, things like that. So is it that they're not willing to pre-book, or is it that they won't stay on a schedule? Those are two different problems. So if I'm not willing to pre-book, that means that I am waiting for my schedule or something of that nature in order to get that appointment. But there's like someone who doesn't pre-book but still comes on a 4 or 6, 8 week schedule is a very different client than someone who just comes when they think the dog looks long. So Megan, I will come back to your question as soon as you can let me know. Is it a pre-booking issue, or is it they will not come in a 4-6 week schedule? And Shelly is saying, that's my excuse not to do them. I'm a vet tech. I can do anything. Well, being able to do anything and doing it well are two different things. And I'm not saying you can't do it well, but it's no different than, can I do a German on my standard poodle? Yes. Can I do it well? Is it pet good? Yes. Am I going to be stepping into the grooming competition ring anytime soon? Probably unwise. And I agree. Like I will say, I didn't work in a vet very long, but being a vet tech is basically, we have to do this on this crazy animal. And you're like, well, buckle up. Why not? Why not? Hey, like I have this feral cat. Can you give it shots? And you're like, sure. Why not? Akita who wants to maul my face off. Oh, and you have a chow. perfect. We will definitely clip your dog's toenails. It'll just take like 4 people. It's all good. I get it, and I would be careful with the 2 people thing, because then if you hire someone, they're gonna be like, well, now you have 2 people. That's where I generally refer out saying, I'm not like, same thing I do with hand stripping. Can I hand strip? Yes. Do I enjoy hand stripping? Yes. But when I'm in my shop, I realize that people that are going to pay for hand stripping aren't going to come to my shop, just because they're generally going to go to handlers or things like that, or breeders. And so I would just say, I'm not certified in that task, therefore we do not offer it. Or, same thing if someone wanted a really like if they want like an English saddle clip, then I would just flat out tell them, I am not certified in poodles. Like, I can do pet poodles, but we do not do any breed standard cuts that are show quality. Things like that. And I do that because it's easier, because then, they can seek out somebody who is that, if they really honestly truly care, versus to me saying, oh, I need 2 people. But then if they go to a groomer like me who can do one thing, now you look stupid. Like, so, because groomer, they don't understand what we do. It would be kind of like, it's like anything. Like, it's, I'm sure you guys have had clients where, you have a very aggressive dog, and then it goes to the groomer down the street, and the groomer down the street is just one of those like miracle groomers who every dog, possessed by Satan will let them groom it because they're just, I don't know. And so being able to do that, But anyway, Shelly's saying, after class, I have membership sigh in trouble. I want to learn new cat Jedi skills. The NCJ is a great program. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of time, but it's like any certification. I'm one of 300 people in the world with that certification. It's very hard to get, but it's really good, but because I can handle anything. But because I can handle anything, that means you have to learn a lot. So Megan is saying, typically it's easier, but it's been only me for 2 years. For some reason, we can't keep or find a second groomer, and it's getting so furious to tell me people I'm booked out for 2 weeks out then. Then they keep calling every week to come in that week, and it's the same conversation. I have to wait list right now, but it's usually it ends up being pushed aside because 3 salons closed in my area and the vet groomer nearby is now part-time, so I'm glad I'm gaining clientele from referrals. Well, my question is, Megan, because it's not your business, how much leniency do you have? And B, because if I were in your situation, that's all I can tell you. So if I was in your situation, and again, we can talk more in depth if you want. But long story short, what I would tell, so this is a great example. So at this point in the corporate where you are, there's basically no competition. And it is really hard to find a groomer because it's a physical job and you have to love it. It is not for the faint of heart. So I would personally tell people, you are not a salon where they can get in within 2 weeks. You're not. You're the kind of salon you need to pre-book. And if you don't pre-book, then you don't get priority. Honestly, I would make a list of how many clients you have that are pre-booking for 4 weeks or 6 weeks. Because a lot of times you're going to have the same problem that one of my clients had. One of my business clients. So she had a problem where she had all these irregular clients, and by irregulars, they were still booking, but they would book out for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, and they would book out. And then she would have these great every 4-week clients. But what would happen is that at one point, let's say like around holidays or around certain things, all those crappy 3, 4, 6 month clients would be clustered, and then she couldn't fit in her 4 weeks. And so we had to do the math and figure out how many, 4-week clients does she have? How many does she honestly have? And so what we did is go, okay, how many slots do you have per week? How many of those clients can you fit? The good clients, the clients that are willing to pre-book, the clients that tip well, that have a great service, that keep their dog conditioned, all those things. And those should be the clients that get priority. Not because the other people are bad people, but it takes more time and effort to do a dog who's not done regularly than a dog who's done regularly. A dog done 13 times a year is a lot more compliant than a dog who's done 6 times a year. It is a lot more compliant than a dog done 3 times a year. And that seems like a lot of difference, but if you're done every 4 weeks, then you get groomed about 13 times. If you are groomed every 8 weeks, you are groomed 6 times a year. If you are groomed every 4 months, you're groomed 3 times a year. So it makes a huge difference in the dog and in the people. So I would figure out who, is the majority of your client wanting to come in last minute. And if that is the majority of your clientele, that's because you're in corporate. Because you have to think about who is the person not going to a private salon. And now that you don't have a lot of private salons in your area, you're going to get the clients that would have gone to a private salon if it was an option. And so those are the clients that you can convert. And it matters, and you can, if you have the ability, if work will let you steer that ship, I would personally say something to the effect of, are you willing to commit to a pre-booked 4 to 6 week appointment? No? Okay. Then what we can do is we can give you whatever's left over that week. And let the people that are the good clients book first. And being booked out for 2 weeks just tells me that you guys need to either A, start increasing your prices. I don't know if they're going to let you do that or not, but if there is that much capacity, then, start looking at your pricing, start, requiring certain, tiers. Don't book people if they're not doing that. There are ways of thinning the herd in a way that benefits you. And again, that might seem mean, but if you have 2 weeks and a waiting list, you're spending an awful lot of time on the phone. If you had that same 2 week booked out and you had it on the recording, saying essentially you need to pre-book, because if you don't pre-book, I have nothing for you. And if you keep having these conversations, you make sure you write notes. Hi, Mrs. Jones. I see here that you called last week and we explained that we were 2 weeks booked and you didn't want to book for this week. I find it's really unfortunate. I would really like it if we could book you out now, because unfortunately there's going to be additional charges as Fluffy's matted. Megan is saying it's Pet Supplies Plus, so it's very unusual for a salon to be just one groomer, so it's kind of weird. I worked at Pet Supplies Plus before, and there was only 2 of us, and I honestly groomed by myself. We basically split the shop. There were some days that overlapped, but we worked some Saturdays together, but for the most part, she worked Saturdays and I worked Sundays. And then I worked 2 more days during the week. This is when I first started my mobile to make extra money. So it is by yourself. So this is things where you don't, and again, you can refine your business. This is where if you are by yourself and your manager is giving you leeway, you can figure out what it is that you don't like to do and then not book those dogs. Or, when I worked for Pet Supplies Plus, they were very lenient. They basically let me make my own pricing, which was very nice compared to Petco or PetSmart. They're having a lot of problems right now, at least the one local to me, because they don't have regional managers, really. They have a regional manager who isn't really keeping track of anything. So, hopefully that is. But it is tough. If you're by yourself, maybe you only book little dogs instead of big dogs, because big dogs take more time and more physical effort. You have to be very careful lifting a dog by yourself. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. So it really comes down to, Megan, what you want to do and what they will let you do. But again, I would reiterate the benefits to their pet and then why or why not you will do things. So, again, this is going to come down to, guys, figuring out what your deal breakers are. What are your deal breakers? What are you not willing to do? And then letting them know politely why you can't do these things. And then being able to say it gracefully and in a way that makes them okay with the situation. So I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and being patient while I tried to figure out all of the technical side of it. It's not always perfect. So for those of you guys that have been on the fence about joining our membership, which is, as I'm losing my voice, oh boy, don't mind me. Oh, you know how it is. Okay, let me take a sip. If you guys have not considered joining our membership, I'd like you to invite you to join our Grow Wealthy Grooming membership in the month of March. We are going to be doing our next session, which is going to be all about how to deal with, difficult clients without losing your mind. I know a lot of us deal with these clients, right? That we're saying politely we cannot deal with them. And this month we're going to make a game plan to how we're going to deal with those clients if they decide to be nutty. So if you haven't joined already, it is still only $10 a month. It will be going up next month to $20 a month. And Megan is saying, yeah, we have that issue too, but I've been doing less dogs a day to make walk and flow into consideration for Saturday and Sunday because I burning out, but thank you for the advice. Honestly, if you're booked 2 weeks in advance, you should not be taking walk-ins. And if your boss doesn't like it, he can go suck an egg. Because walk-ins are bullshit. Same day appointments? Sure. Walk-ins, I have such a pet peeve for walk-in nail trims. It takes 15 to 20 minutes between checking in, checking out, and making them pick up their goddamn dog. Because even if you check them in, check the rabies, make everything like that, print out the slip, hand them the slip, put the dog on the table, trim the nails, while they go run to the cash register, and then they never run to the cash register. They're blah, around. They come back, they pick up the dog. It still takes 15 minutes. And when you do the math, it's way more work than it's worth because you had to put away the clients that spent the time and effort booking their appointment are now getting pushed aside for the asshole that just wants to walk in the door. I hate walk-in services. I think it's so tacky. It's no different than, if I book a hair appointment and I'm with my hairdresser and she were to say, oh, stay here for a second, I have a walk-in, bang trim. Well, I'm like, where are you going? I just booked this appointment. I spent the time, you couldn't fit me in. And that's the thing too, is if you can't fit somebody in for 2 weeks, but you can take a walk-in nail trim, what kind of mind fuck is that, right? Think about that. If you can fit in 2 to 5 nail trims, you probably got to fit in at least 2 more baths or at least 1 more haircut. Probably more than that if your clientele was done on a regular 4-week basis, because a dog done every 4 weeks takes at least 20% less time. I know, I'm a rotten human being, but that's my point. Think about that. We're told we should let walk-ins happen. And I would tell your boss, Pet Supplies Plus, they can have a cashier go get trained. They can get certified at Pet Supplies Plus to just do nail trims. Have them set up a table on the other side of the room and page them when someone wants to come in for a walk-in nail trim, because you need to make real money. Making $5 for 15 minutes worth of work, it is not worth it. Well, let me tell you something, Megan. What if you just said, I'm not doing it anymore. I need to focus on my grooming clients. I cannot stop what I'm doing, do all that shit in the middle of a Saturday and Sunday. It doesn't make any sense. Say, you need to train someone. I am not doing this anymore. I can take same day nail trim appointments, but I cannot you can't have randos just walk in. It doesn't make any sense. From a business perspective, it makes sense if they, again, have someone just hanging out. And, you know, if you guys want to work on the format, if I had somebody say, like, if I'm on the phone and they say, oh, I just want to do a walk-in nail trim. And I would say, I can imagine that that'd be really convenient. However, in my business model, I have clients that pre-book appointments and they are my priority. And because of that, I can't take someone who just walks in, because if you walk in for a nail trim, I have to take the dog on the table, put it either in a kennel or down on the floor for safety reasons, leave it unattended, to then check in your dog, check your medical records, put your dog on the table, clip its nails, put the dog down on the floor, stay with your dog, or put your dog in a kennel, which, we don't know if that dog's any good in a kennel, or attach it somewhere else until you come back. And as you can imagine, this puts, at least 2 dogs under my care at once, which is not safe. It leaves me in a position where, that client that had pre-booked that appointment is not being taken care of and not made a priority. And so one of the best things I ever did for my grooming salon when I had it was to take same day. I will take same day appointments. I do not take walk-ins. And that was a big distinction. And it made my life really simple. Or you could always say to them, let's make the last hour of the day walk-in nail trims. And say, okay, we offer walk-in nail trims. Let's say your day is done at 5. Okay, between 4 and 5 o'clock, I can take walk-in nail trims. And then, you've got time where people are picking up dogs, and at the same time, you can have the nail trims. But I would really shy away from that. I think that is a giant mistake, because I think that, again, this is my opinion. You guys can take it. You cannot take it. You can do whatever you want. I am just going to give you my opinion. Because I don't know many people that do not have a large staff, a very large staff, or a receptionist who can literally just stop what she's doing in order to do that. I think it's very difficult as a groomer. Like, I have a set day. I have a lot to accomplish. I've booked my day accordingly, and now you're just throwing monkey wrenches into it. If we've heard death by 1,000 cuts, it's really death by 1,000 nail clips. Because if I do 5 nail clips in a day, that will throw my day off by at least an hour. All right, guys, I want to thank you again so much for being here today. I hope this was helpful. I hope that it was informative. I wanted to talk today about how to accept a client, not accept a client, rather gracefully. And I hope you guys have found this to be helpful and useful. If you did, please give a thumbs up, a like, feel free to comment, and share. All right, guys, as always, so I'm trying to do this, right? Happy grooming.